Good morning, everyone. My name is Brett Meister. I'm the Director of Communications, the Roman Catholic Diocese of Phoenix. Thank you for coming out for today's special announcement on such a short notice. Welcome the DPC staff and the media. On January 21st, Bishop Olmsted celebrated his 75th birthday. According to canon law of the Catholic Church, he was requested to submit his resignation to Pope Francis. Upon turning 75 in January, Bishop Olmsted sent a letter to Pope Francis asking for permission to retire, having reached the age limit for bishops. After 5 months of discernment, Pope Francis has accepted the request to retire, and today we're here to share some good news. At this time, I'd like to introduce Bishop Olmsted, who's been leading the Diocese of Phoenix for the past 18 plus years. Bishop.
Thank you, Brett. Delighted to have you here this morning with us, and so grateful for all of you who have come, members of the press, and especially my brothers and sisters of the Diocesan Pastoral Center, some of our seminarians and our priests. It's my honor to welcome our new bishop to the Diocese of Phoenix. I give thanks to God and to our Holy Father, Pope Francis, for sending us a brother bishop and one of the most respected priests of the Diocese of San Diego. Bishop John Dolan brings with him many years of dedicated service and pastoral leadership in a diocese that's built on the inspiring legacy of Saint Junipero Serra. As a priest, Bishop Dolan served as a pastor of several large parishes with schools and growing populations. More recently, he served as vicar for priests and vicar general, and I just found out 5 minutes ago, because of his friend Father Chuck Kiefer, a priest of our diocese, that he also served as vocation director a number of years ago. So a vast amount of experience as a priest in leadership roles in a diocese neighboring us. This means he has many years of valuable experience of working with school boards, seminarians, finance councils, priests and deacons and religious, deanery meetings, diocesan staff, civic officials, and he also knows the joy of priestly fraternity. Being a native son of California, Your Excellency, you're well acquainted with the zeal and apostolic holiness of Saint Junipero Serra, who we ourselves feel a real link with here as well. But here in Arizona, you will come to know another great missionary who labored tirelessly to share the gospel of Christ with the native peoples of southern Arizona and northern Mexico. Padre Eusebio Quino of the Society of Jesus. In fact, if you come out of the state capitol and walk forward, you'll come to a statue larger than life of Padre Quino on a horse. You might want to go there and pray one day. The horse is good company as well. My brother in Christ, you will also find joy in coming to know and collaborate with many faithful priests, deacons, men and women religious, and talented lay leaders who have been my closest collaborators and true missionaries, disciples of Jesus. Even though you've spent your life in service to Christ near the Pacific Ocean of California, I know you will appreciate the beauty of the desert and those whom Jesus has called to be his faithful witnesses here. My brothers and sisters in Christ, I have no doubt that you will come quickly to know our new bishop's joyful spirit and his generous heart, who, like me, give thanks to God each day for the love of Jesus and the honor to be his servant. Please join me in welcoming Bishop John Dolan.
At this new chapter in my life and ministry, I'm filled with deep, deep gratitude. I truly am. That the Lord has been at my side and that he remains faithful to me. My phone, pardon me, has been blowing up. And I begin this service to the people of God here in the Diocese of Phoenix, knowing that my Lord is with me and that the Spirit of God is guiding me. En este nuevo capítulo de mi vida y ministerio, estoy lleno de profunda gratitud, porque es el Señor que ha estado a mi lado, permanece fiel a mí al comenzar mi servicio al pueblo de Dios aquí en la Diócesis de Phoenix. Deseo dar las gracias al obispo Olmsted y también al obispo Nevares, que me han demostrado un cálido y cariñosa bienvenida. I wish to thank Bishop Olmsted and Bishop Nevares, who is unable to join us because he is celebrating the ordination of his nephew. So he called me to say he was sorry he couldn't attend, and I said you would be in trouble with your nephew and his family if you didn't go and celebrate that. So I perfectly understand. But Bishop Olmsted and Bishop Nevares have already welcomed me with great affection and love. Last night, in fact, Bishop Olmsted and I enjoyed a time of prayer and fellowship, and I have quickly come to admire and respect your bishop as a true disciple and son of the church. And I was particularly moved as we shared our various stories, our family stories, including the story of his mother, who's 100 years old, and my mother is a youthful 92, and my dad as well. They're both 92, but I was really moved by our time to share our family story, our upbringings, our vocation stories, and so on. And I look forward to deepening my closeness with and my love for your two bishops. Last Sunday, on the Feast of Pentecost of all days, I received a call from Archbishop Christophe Pierre, the papal nuncio in Washington, D.C., who told me that Pope Francis wished to appoint me to this wonderful portion of the Lord's vineyard. And on that Feast of Pentecost, I said yes. And now, relying on the breath and strength of the same Holy Spirit who came down upon the apostles, I ask Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patroness of the Diocese of Phoenix, to help me to continue to say yes to the Lord as your new bishop. I give praise to God for my parents, Kathy and Jerry, who this coming Sunday celebrate 72 years of marriage. And may they continue to enjoy the sweetness of life together. I told my mom a couple of days ago, and we did talk about who leaked the story. I assure you it wasn't my mom. Okay. But not my dad either. But I told her that I was only going to be, 7-hour drive away or whatever it is. I fudged. And, I'll be there probably once a month to see her. And she said, well, that's more than you see me now, so. But I'm also grateful to the Lord for each of my 8 siblings, some of whom are in the hands of God in heaven, and others of whom continue to reside in San Diego, and another who lives here in this diocese. They continue to inspire me and offer me both prayerful and moral support. And the long list of my friends and neighbors and teachers and mentors is too lengthy to even attempt to acknowledge here. Many of them are priests and bishops and women religious who have taught me how to be a priest and pastor and bishop. I'm indebted to each and every one of them. The people of the Diocese of San Diego will always have a place in my heart. As a native of San Diego and resident there for all 60 years of my life, I will now have to make some adjustments. I'll probably get rid of my coats, right? And put on some shorts. I grew up in the heart of San Diego, just miles from Pacific Beach, where I would, spend long summer days surfing and boogie boarding, and my dermatologist can attest to that today. My childhood home was in the Mission Bay area and in a community called Tecolote Canyon, resting between two hills. St. Mary Magdalene was my home parish on one hill, and the Catholic high school, the University of San Diego High School, which was across from the University of San Diego, on another hill. And it became a perfect place for Catholic families to gather and to live. And the Dolans were a part of that community. In fact, Tecolote Canyon was often called Catholic Gulch. So there in that neighborhood, along with so many other Catholic friends, I really, as a kid, I thought everyone was Catholic. I didn't know. But I celebrated all of my sacraments and offered my first Mass as a priest within that community. And I attended the School of the Madeleine, trained by the wonderful Sisters of St. Francis of the Philadelphia Province. I'm still good friends with many of them. And then attended a Catholic high school, as I said, the University of San Diego High School, before then taking up my residence at St. Francis Seminary, which is on the University of San Diego campus. And then I went from there to Menlo Park to study theology at St. Patrick's, there in Northern California, or mid-California, I guess it is, where I received both a Master's of Divinity and a Master of Arts, with a kind of an attention on sacred art and liturgical art. I was ordained to the priesthood by Bishop Leo Mulhern, and served in various roles, mostly parish-related, throughout my ministry for the last 33 years, the last 5 years as Auxiliary Bishop of San Diego. I can thank Cardinal-elect, Cardinal Delegate, Cardinal Designate, Robert McElroy for placing me in the roles of Vicar General, Moderator of the Curia, and Vicar for Clergy. And it is in these roles and as Bishop where I discovered a new ministry, a ministry of diocesan governance within the life of the Church, which took me a little while to embrace, to be honest, coming from parish life and being involved in parish communities. It was a different way. I had to shift. But I valued Cardinal McElroy's leadership, and I continue to offer my prayers for him, especially now as he prepares to serve His Holiness as a cardinal and a chief collaborator. I'm truly blessed to be here in Phoenix. I have been here a number of times, different times, to see the wonderful sights. You have some magnificent places, including Sedona and the Grand Canyon and Lake Havasu, and my namesake, Dolan Springs, which is just a gateway to another view of the Grand Canyon. However, beyond the beautiful scenery, as I see this ever-growing church, and it is, I've been hearing the stories, it's unbelievable. As the city grows, this is how I was not aware of this reality. I did not know that this was the 5th largest city in the country. So, wow, okay. And then to see that it just continues to grow, and the church in numbers is growing as well. And so I see this ever-growing church, but I see it's growing not just in numbers, but deeply, profoundly, spiritually. And I'm inspired by your intercultural way of life, your ecumenical spirit, your vast array of grade schools and high schools and colleges and Newman centers, and your service to the poor through Catholic Charities and the amazing St. Vincent de Paul, truly amazing. And the various spiritual movements and organizations like Cursillo and Legion of Mary, and the fraternal organizations like the Knights of Peter, Claver, and Columbus, and Malta, and Holy Sepulchre. Your formation programs for the diaconate and the priesthood, and the catechetical programs for youth and young adults and adults. The list goes on. And truly, this church is alive. And this is due in great part to you, Bishop Olmsted, and Bishop Navarez, and to this vibrant curia here gathered, and to the clergy of this diocese, and to the various leaders throughout this diocese. Bishop Olmsted, truly, your diocese should be proud. To the men and women religious, deacons and wives, priests, lay faithful, and bishops in Phoenix, I promise my heartfelt love and prayer as we journey together toward proclaiming the good news of Jesus. He is the Lord. He is our shepherd. He is our brother and our friend. And he promises us the joys of his peaceable kingdom here and in the life to come. My motto as bishop is, abide in my love. This is Jesus' command, which promises joy, and to be sure, complete joy, as he says. I'm confident that as the 5th bishop of the Diocese of Phoenix, I will have joy as long as I abide in his love. So please, I ask you to pray for me. And with that, I'm going to open it up, should you have any questions.
If there's questions, raise your hand.
First of all, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Can you identify yourself?
Yep. Joe Dana with 12 News here in Phoenix.
Thank you.
First, could you respond to a couple of requests by the survivors of those abused by priests, the SNAP group? They have asked, one, that you review all cases of those who have been accused of abuse in the diocese to make sure they have been handled properly. Is that something that you have done or plan to do in the coming days or weeks?
Well, in the coming days and weeks, probably not specifically because I won't have landed here yet. So, but certainly as soon as I get here, I will certainly, take a look at where we've been. And, in the Diocese of San Diego, we had an outside firm. I don't know if that's here, but we had an outside firm to take a look at all of the files, and maybe that's something, I don't know. But I honestly don't know what has occurred here. But yes, the goal obviously is to be as transparent as we know. Okay, not as possible, but as we know. So what we know, we can see what we can do to be as transparent as possible.
Would it be fair to say within the next year you would commit to looking at all files of those accused?
Oh, well, certainly. I mean, that is one of the things I do as vicar for clergy in the Diocese of San Diego and vicar general is, I'm certainly alert to the various files that we have, and those names and have been produced, and so in truth, we'll take a look at all of that. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, generally speaking, SNAP is saying this: Catholic officials have promised transparency and openness to the public about sex crimes. We hope Bishop-elect Dolan can live up to that promise. Again, they're talking about transparency and openness moving forward. Your response?
Well, I think that's the truth. I mean, obviously, we want to stay, within the spectrum of innocent until proven guilty is one of the issues. The other is that we want to, we will do everything within our power. I don't know what the laws are here in the state of Arizona, but we even went beyond the laws in the state of California to make sure that every employee and even our volunteers understood the importance of reporting, not to the diocese, but being, in a sense, being first responders and reporting to the diocese, but basically going to the DA or to the police, and if they should have a case that comes forward. So I don't know how the laws are here, but I can assure you that we, at least in the state of California, at least in the city of San Diego, the Diocese of San Diego, we even went above the law to the joy of our district attorney there. So Yes, I think we will do our very best to make sure that, first of all, if there's ever any claim, that we will vet that, not ourselves, not inwardly, but send the information as best we know, as best we can, to the powers that be in the civic arena so that we can move forward from there. And sometimes even when we do that, sometimes in the civic world, in the police world, they don't want us to inform the priest or anyone else until they can do their investigation. So sometimes our hands are tied. So, but anyway, that's just the way things roll. And we've learned a lot. I tell you what, I believe it's Bishop Navarez and I sit on the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee for the Protection of Youth and Young Adults. So,
Bishop, to your left.
yes.
Good morning, sir. I'm Mark Phillips from ABC 15.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Phoenix, like San Diego, has a rather large Hispanic community and population that is deeply devoted to the faith.
Yes.
My question to you is, immigration issues play a large role in those communities. We really haven't seen much in terms of the church here get involved politically on matters like this, at least not outwardly. Your thoughts? Does the Catholic Church have a role in terms of dealing with our immigrant population and issues like we have on the border today, where we're dealing with folks who are trying to come in and claim amnesty?
So the answer is the church does, on a whole, it does, and the U.S. bishops have responded to that, and bishops literally on the border are responding to it perhaps in a greater way than others. I come from the Diocese of San Diego, where both of our counties, San Diego and Imperial County, rest along the border, and the Diocese of Tucson here in Arizona would rest along the border. So they're going to roll up their sleeves a little bit more than maybe we do. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's going to affect them maybe in a bigger way than we might have here in Phoenix. But all that said, no, we accompany that reality. I'm sure Phoenix does, no matter, or any diocese within the U.S. will accompany that reality, that we need to attend to our brothers and sisters who are really struggling. You know, they're trying to eke out a living. They're trying to find some semblance of life. And how we do that in a pastoral way, while at the same time, understanding, the church says this very well, that the church respects that countries have, rights to establish, protocols and borders and things like that to protect their citizens. We understand that, but at the same time, we also meet one soul at a time. And if someone is trying their best to eke out a living and live, well, it's our responsibility. Jesus says, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and we don't look at their card to see if we have to do that first.
Over here again.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Phoenix. My name is Matt Casey. I work for KJZZ. I was reading this morning about you were assigned to a parish that had a large LGBTQ community in San Diego, and that you're also quite friendly with a group of LGBTQ Catholics. Is it your intention as bishop to be a public advocate for LGBTQ rights?
That's a good question. The parish you're speaking of happens to rest right in the center of the predominant LGBT community. It's in Hillcrest in San Diego. And the pastor there, who was just appointed pastor there, he was there for about a month, and he died, and he was trying to establish something of a welcoming community, a welcoming parish. Just to drive the numbers up, the parish was really small. It only had maybe 20 to 30 people attend on a Sunday, So he was just trying to get the message out, and he's responsible in that parish, bound in the parish boundaries to touch the lives of the people. So that was his goal. And then suddenly he died. And I was working as vicar for clergy at the time, and the bishop asked me to go in and fill in a spot, and I was happy to do so. And at the same time, there was another parish joining that needed attention, and so I was covering 2 parishes and running the vicar for clergy. And then 6 months later, I was made a bishop. So, that's the world in which I was living at the time. But I will say that I was profoundly moved by members of that community, some of whom were struggling with this idea of a welcoming parish, and others who were struggling, wondering if they would even be welcomed. So it was an interesting moment in my life, and certainly in the life of that particular parish. So, but as to the heart of your question, I think I will continue to have that open heart and dialogue. I'm not a person who likes to draw a line in the sand, or I'm really a person who really likes to dialogue rather than shut things down. And I think we are better church when we have an open heart. I also work with the African American community in the state of California, and we follow diligently the Open Wide Our Heart document from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And I've learned through that, through working with the LGBT community, and also working with a passion of mine is mental health ministry, working there as well, that opening hearts and opening doors for dialogue is a lot better. It's a lot harder work, but it's a lot better than drawing a line in the sand. Yeah.
Joe Dana again with 12 News. As you know, Pope Francis over the years has had a reputation of being a more progressive pope in the view of some. What has your experience been with Pope Francis, and how will the tone that he has set worldwide impact the way you lead the diocese?
Well, I think the tone that Pope Francis offers is really not a change, as he himself would say. He's a son of the church, so he is going to, with bended knee, proclaim the teachings of our faith, the faith and morals, in the way that we have been. I think the tone that you're focused on is really the pastoral approach, in the way in which we are able to touch, again, open those doors, keep those doors of dialogue open, so that that from a pastoral perspective, we can talk to people who may embrace those faiths, but also talk to people who are struggling with that, or even those who reject it. But to, again, draw a line in the sand is certainly not the tone of Pope Francis, and it never was mine. And we were talking earlier, growing up in a very large family. I grew up in a very large family, 9, kids. There's no way of drawing a line in the sand with 9 kids. You can't do that. You have to fight it out sometimes, right? But at the end of the day, we get to table together and have dinner. And that's what we should be eventually working toward.
Anyone else? Okay, that concludes our press conference for today. Was there another question over here? Oh, right here.
I thought you were still back there. I have a lot of little questions that I probably shouldn't ask right now. Bishop Olmsted, any chance you're going to take up golf? Or just maybe just longer hikes? I'm not sure. I'd love to know, Bishop Dolan, where you're going to live, too. I know Bishop Olmsted forewent the bishop's house for his entire time here, similar to, I think, Pope Francis. But more than that, are there, Bishop Olmsted, I don't know if you'd be comfortable answering any questions, but the diocese looked a lot different. Sorry, my name is JD. I work at America Media. The diocese looked a lot different when you took over. It was a very tumultuous time for the diocese. Right now you're in the middle of a capital campaign. The church is growing tremendously here. You've laid the groundwork for all that. What other challenges do you foresee as you transfer leadership to Bishop Dolan?
Thank you. The challenge in the present secular society is a really great one, I think. And we've made a special challenge or outreach for millennials, because we hear that that's a group that's finding themselves more and more kind of distance from our society. So that definitely is something we need to focus on a lot. That's one of the reasons with our Together Let Us Come Forth campaign that we especially wanted to strengthen our high school presence and also our Newman centers at Grand Canyon University, Arizona State University, and Northern Arizona University. So those will be things we'll continue to do. And I know we've been talking together. Evangelization and discipleship has to be at the foreground of what we're doing. We're always in need of proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ to those that may never have heard of him before, who may be turned off because of what they've heard or understand. And we need to continually be reaching out. I'm pretty confident that Bishop Dolan will follow along those lines very well.
Bishop Dolan, would you have anything to add, or perhaps, I don't know, some regret that you weren't appointed like in October instead of June?
Well, yeah, I would just say some people thought maybe things were heating up, but I think I'm trusting that it had to do with the climate. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be slightly different. I have to say, growing up in San Diego, I spent a great deal of time at the beach and loved all of that, and the weather was always pretty, nice, around 72 degrees roughly, but the Diocese of San Diego also has a desert, the Imperial County, and it's an agricultural region of San Diego Diocese, and I loved it. I loved the desert. I would go out during the summers. In fact, I'll go to Borrego Springs to fill in for a guy during the weekend. So I really enjoyed that. Bishop McElroy, somehow he remembered that. So maybe, I don't know if there was, if he had any say in where I'm going, but so I think happily I do like the desert, and I think there's a great charm about this particular diocese. And I look forward to that, to the climate. To the climate, I do. Crazy.
One more question back here.
Hi, Bishop Dolan. My name is Catherine Mulhern. I work here in the Diocesan Pastoral Center. I met you in the elevator this morning.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just know that this is a time of big transition for you, and just wanted you to know that you're very welcome here, and we're excited to support you. And I just wanted to ask how we as a center and also the diocese can be praying for you, and how we can be supporting you in this time of transition.
Well, I appreciate that. I certainly understand the power of prayer. I have thousands of people praying for me, and they've been praying for me all my life, beginning with my mom and dad and my godparents and my family, and then, as I moved up toward priesthood, more prayers, and it just, so I rely heavily on that. They buttress me. So I think that's important. The sacramental prayers are most important for me, so remember me at Mass if you can. And of course you will. The name. But as far as the other forms of support, I would say just continue to do what you're doing, and I'm just so thrilled to hear some of the magnificent things. I just listed off a few during my comments, but walking with mothers in need, I think, is a very important thing that the diocese has embraced, which comes from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. I think that's really important because it offers kind of a wraparound service more than just simply saying no to abortion and saying yes to the gospel of life. It really is focused on wraparound service, and I think that's excellent. I'm glad you're doing that. It's similar to what we're doing in the state of California with the end-of-life issue. We had a bill that was passed in 2016 on physician-assisted suicide, and rather we knew that we'd continue to advocate, in the spirit of advocacy, to say no to a bill that would end life prematurely, but we also were focused on a thing called whole person care, which again was a wraparound service to help minimize the need to even consider the possibility of ending your life prematurely. So, which I think is very helpful, and it touches on hospitals and parishes and care facilities and all the rest. So I'm a big fan of that. Anything where we can be more proactive rather than reactive, I think is very helpful. I like the fact that you have already moved in the direction of having better priestly fraternity, and we are going to continue that. I think that's absolutely essential, especially after the COVID moment. Well, it's just been tough for everyone, but I think it was hard on priests especially, having to manage the up and down, putting up tarps and taking down tarps and putting up screens and taking down screens and all of that. It was craziness, and they caught a lot of fire from people on both sides of the issue, and so that was very hard. And they were amazing, at least in San Diego, and from what I'm hearing, they were amazing here. So I think that idea of just shoring up their own fraternity, their getting together and loving each other and supporting each other, I think that's just important. I'm just glad you're moving in that direction. I would say the other piece that I'm happy to see in this diocese is how you are, growing and what you're doing to just try to stay up with the growth of this diocese. And so you're trying to find additional land and thinking outside the box to just anticipate growth, because it is happening. And that's what I'm going to, the baton is being passed, and I'm going to take it. So that's going to be my life for perhaps the next 15 years, if God is good.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you. Thank you all. God bless you. Please pray for me.
Well, that concludes our press conference today. We thank you for coming. There'll be more details on the installation for Bishop Dolan, which will be in early August. So reach out to me, media, if you have any questions. Thank you again.